Thunderbird turns 20 years old. Mozilla removes the Do Not Track option. A poker player gets caught cheating using tiny cameras. And a new Steam machine. More on this week's episode of No Tucks Allowed. Hey guys, welcome back to No Tucks Allowed. I am your host, Josh, and today the kitten is not on my lap, the kitten is on the back of the chair. So if you're watching the video version of the show, let's see how long it takes for the cat to get off the back of the chair. As you know, we attempt to record this episode of No Tucks Allowed. And to help me in this adventure, I have brought my friend all the way from Slovenia, from in his living room.
Hello.
Hey, Bigpod?
Yeah.
I know you've been really busy, like setting up this wonderful new desktop setup for yourself that you've fallen in love with, and that you totally told me that I probably shouldn't try, but I'm probably going to try it anyway because I've been pseudo curious about trying something like that for a while.
I didn't say that you shouldn't try. I said that I will not recommend you to try, but I've been having lots of fun with.
Well, you see. Well, in the meantime, while you've been messing around with this, and we'll talk about like what you did over the week a little bit later. But first of all, you were so busy that you missed Thunderbird's 20th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, releasing December 7th, 2004. We had Thunderbird enter the field. The same year that Google released Gmail. For those of you that are tracking, and I don't know the exact day that Gmail released, but I know that's the same year because Thunderbird mentions it as well, and they posted this up on their blog, and that Thunderbird's been around for 20 years, and Thunderbird is honestly like my second favorite email client.
Really?
Yes, because believe it or not, I still much prefer like Microsoft Outlook to Thunderbird, but not current versions of Outlook. I'm talking about Microsoft Outlook of 10 years ago.
So that would be 10 years. That would be like 2014 or the Outlook like 2012. I believe that was.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay, and because I knew the date of when Gmail was released because it was like kind of a significant date. It was April 1st, 2004.
Right, April 1st.
Yes.
Yeah, because why not release an email service that gives you a full gig of storage for your emails, which is just simply unheard of on April 1st, and then give it to you for free.
Yes. A lot of people thought it was a joke.
Well, you see that
because it was April Fool's.
Yeah, it was April Fool's after all, and of course, this was good guy Google days too. Yeah, because Google used to be the good guy.
Well, we should remember that this was literally one of their things. Like they just throw things out and see what sticks, and this stuck.
Yep, and they posted some fun facts here for your trivia. So, before the name Thunderbird was finalized, the project was very briefly referred to as Minotaur.
Huh. Interesting.
So, we could have had the bull by the horns there.
Yeah. But honestly, I think it makes a lot of sense, much better sense for it to be Thunderbird.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they mentioned a couple other things too, like as beloved by power users, because if you know what an email client is these days and you're installing an email client, you're automatically a power user to some extent.
Yeah.
It supports over 50 languages, basically meaning that, it's got more like language support than many of the like proprietary clients that you would expect to have like support for some of these uncommon languages. Uses donation-driven independence. Basically means that donations fund the development.
Yeah.
And they do mention that only 3% of the users actually donate to Thunderbird.
Makes sense.
Lighted. This is only 1 year into like their wonderful pop-up that says, "Hey, can you give us money?" So I expect that number to maybe change as it goes through. And of course, another big thing that's popular right now is that Thunderbird for Android actually does exist now. They have a beta client available. It's built off of the old K9 Mail, which is still my preferred email client on Android. Sorry, Mozilla or Thunderbird team. I just much prefer K9 still. But Bigpod, I know you don't use Thunderbird yourself.
Yeah.
But have you used Thunderbird before?
No, I never
No?
used. Actually, I never used an desktop-based email client, except when I was working and I used and we used Outlook by default. Actually, I think it was in that 2012, 2014 era.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, just about like at that time, yeah.
Okay, so do you know why that's my favorite version of Outlook?
Why?
Because it does inbox rules right.
Huh.
Everything
Okay.
else has sucked since then.
Okay.
But but I just remember like really loving the inbox rules, and nowadays I can't use an email client unless I can set up inbox rules to automatically move files to specific folders depending on the sender, what time of day they would send the email, what the content of the subject is,
Huh.
and so on.
You know, I have a program for that.
Of course you do. Did you write it yourself?
Yes.
You see? I just knew it. He's a true self-hoster to the point where he is fully self-sufficient in his software, except for his operating system. He still needs somebody else to do that for him.
Yeah. I wrote it in Python with the help of this beautiful tool called GPT.
Well, of course.
It was my benchmark to see how much work would I need to do to make something like that with help of GPT. And honestly, about as much as I would writing by hand. Which is why I never again use GPT for anything.
All right. And, speaking of Mozilla news, we have a Firefox change coming up.
Yeah.
Mozilla has decided that they're going to drop the Do Not Track feature that they've had in Firefox for quite a while now, I think.
Interesting.
And
why?
Yeah. Well, so the Do Not Track feature is part of like this HTTP protocol. I believe it is, or it's a web protocol of some kind at the browser, where when the browser accesses a website, it's going to send a couple things off to that web server first, like what web browser I am, what things I support, and what things you're providing that I can support.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And it just turns out that websites were basically just like ignoring the Do Not Track request.
Huh.
It just turns out that they just don't care. They're just going to track you anyway. But
why not?
Well, don't know. Probably because it was a standard issue. It wasn't a standard feature on all the web browsers at the time. And it kind of still isn't, because even Apple's removed the Do Not Track from Safari. They did that back in 2018, I believe.
Huh.
2019, that's what the article says. But anyways, Mozilla said that the feature is going to be removed starting with Firefox 135. So, basically the next release. And they're suggesting instead that you enable the option that says, tell websites not to sell or share my data, which is built on top of the global privacy control protocols, which debuted from Firefox 120.
And the difference is what?
The global privacy control protocols are basically like this is the standard. This is what all web browsers support, and this is what
Yes.
all websites have to comply with according to W3C.
But if Do Not Track was also part of some sort of standard, they would also have to comply with. And no, you don't have to comply with W3C if you don't want to.
I mean, that's true too, but it's not a bad idea to comply because they do set the standard.
Nobody can yell at you.
Yeah, that's true. Well, besides that, Bigpod, we got some good news here for the video gamers.
Really?
Do you remember? Yeah, do you remember like forever ago, Valve released the Steam machines?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, I remember the disaster that was. Well, according to like the writer of this article over here on TechSpot, he checked the Git repository for the Steam Deck kernel and found a device codenamed Fremont.
Really?
That features an HDMI port connected directly to a graphics chip, not through a USB bus.
That, to me, that can mean either two things. That can mean either a Thunderbolt device, a device that has Thunderbolt support, or a device that has a HDMI plug.
Well,
no. Actually, no. Thunderbolt doesn't mean HDMI doesn't mean Thunderbolt, of course. That would be DisplayPort. Yeah, it has to be a HDMI plug then.
Yeah. It also mentions AMD Lilac. Now,
what's that?
I don't know.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, that is an AMD graphics chip that released back in that. Well, it first started showing up about 2023, and eventually released as the AMD 740M integrated graphics chip, which is out nowadays.
Where was that chip featured? Are there any devices? Was that chip that was featured in the Steam Deck?
It's not the one that's in the Steam Deck.
Okay,
but,
so
this chip is the embedded graphics chip that you find on the AMD CPUs, their APU.
Oh,
that's what this is.
Which generation?
Don't remember.
So that I know how old it is.
740M based on the Ryzen 5 7540U.
Okay, so that means Ryzen 7 generation. Okay, so not the latest, but also not old one. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, continue.
Yep, RDNA 3, so that would be like their latest line of desktop GPUs is RDNA 3.
Yes, the latest architecture, yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a bit more to this here, because you compare this along with Steam branding guideline updates, where now there's a badge that says powered by SteamOS on it.
Ooh.
And the guidelines to use that badge references vendors, plural.
So not just one.
Not just one.
But that could be standard boilerplate, so maybe there is currently just one, but this is standard boilerplate. But yeah, they plan to have at least two vendors in the future. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
right.
I'm excited for Valve to take another step into the console market. Because, the one thing Valve releasing a good standalone console into the console market would do is it would provide a day one console that has a game catalog that is fully backwards compatible with emulation support that is in the thousands of titles.
Well,
Maybe not. Maybe potentially millions of titles that you could potentially play.
I am not sure it will be as good as Steam Deck. Let's be honest. I think a Steam console will have same problem as Linux desktop has. It needs to be in a store.
Well,
as
of
in a
course.
physical store. If it's not, it won't be successful. Steam Deck is a unique piece of hardware. That's why it works. Whereas this, I'm not sure.
Well, do you remember like the Steam Link devices that they came out with a few years ago?
Yes, I remember.
Those you could pick up on a store shelf. Like
Yes.
you couldn't find it if you were here in America. You might not find it on like your Walmart store shelf, but like the more electronics focused stores.
Yes.
So places like Micro Center, I think I've seen them in Best Buys before. Places like that.
I am more thinking like outside of US stores, because I don't think I don't remember Steam Links ever being in any of technical stores here.
Well, who knows? Maybe the Steam console itself might actually just be enough to put it on the store, because it's not like these retail brands don't know who Valve is.
Yes.
It's been a while since Valve probably made a physical product that they would want to stock, but they probably know who Valve is.
Yeah.
And if other hardware manufacturers pick this up, like Dell, at one point I think they made a Steam machine under the Alienware brand.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so maybe they do that again.
Yeah, like use OEMs instead of making their own hardware.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of curious to see how far this goes. Of course, I'm convinced. I'm slowly coming around to convincing myself that I want to build a Steam machine myself, because I'm looking at all these wonderful projects like Bazite, Holo ISO, and so on, and I have no use for that right now. But if I had like a dedicated console device, yeah, I could probably go for it.
Yeah.
And of course, Bigpod, it's time for the most fascinating story that I've read this week.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so imagine this. You're playing a high-stakes cash poker game in Las Vegas at a well-known casino.
Ooh.
You're playing Texas Hold'em.
Of course.
You're playing this game at not quite a professional, but like a semi-pro level. And you're playing with all these familiar faces around you, right?
Yeah.
And then a new kid shows up. He
That's
shows up.
Always a bad thing.
He takes a seat at the table right next to the dealer. The first thing you notice is that he's got earbuds in. Not something that's usual, but it's something that you see at the more casual tables.
Makes sense. Like,
yep.
Having something like headphones isn't actually that abnormal. If you do not want to hear the banter of other people at the table, it isn't actually that abnormal to have like earbuds or headphones or something like that in your ears.
Yep. And it gets a little bit more.
I have a feeling it's not good in this situation.
It's not good in this situation because the next thing he does is he takes the phone out of his pocket, because phones are big, they get kind of uncomfortable in your pocket after a while, and he sets it down just off the lip of the table, just off the lip of the table, so the front facing camera of the phone is facing down, and it can see the felt. This was not an issue until you notice that this kid who is playing Texas Hold'em with you has not lost in any hand that saw the river, which is the final card that gets flipped into the public card zone.
Yes.
He has never lost.
Okay, that would be suspicious, because He knows when he would know when to fold and when to not fold.
Right?
I personally would have gone after him.
Now,
Of course,
that's exactly what
try
this
to
guy
read him.
did. Now, this guy did like the universal signal that to the dealer that, hey, there's something going on here, and then the dealer called security to watch him, and then security kind of just sat there and watched. Well,
Yeah.
Eventually, they came down and escorted the guy out.
Makes sense.
And called the police and everything. But how he was cheating, because he was in fact cheating, is fascinating. What he did was he literally took the phone apart, took the front-facing camera out of the phone, and modified it. So that way it would have a mirror inside of it that would point towards what's called the dealer's shoe, which is basically like the little plastic device that the dealer places the deck into after they're done shuffling. And
pulls the cards out, yes.
And pulls the cards out. Well, when that happens...
Many shoes also have, especially these kind of places, would have an auto shuffler as well.
Right?
But,
when the dealer,
especially in this kind of a game, maybe not.
Here's the thing. When it was noticed that this phone was set up so that when the dealer pulled a card out of the shoe, that brief instant where the playing card gets revealed, but face down, but that doesn't mean that the phone can't see off of the reflection off the plastic of the shoe.
Oh, wow.
and the phone was communicating with this external server that this guy wrote. That was then putting it into an audio feed, transmitting it back to his earbuds.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Holy crap. That makes sense.
In there.
There was some sort of recognition system and all that. Like, yeah.
Now, this is not the same incident. This is not a single incident. Over the past 18 months, there have been reports of this happening for a while, but Ars Technica wrote the post on it today. And I'm sitting here reading this in the pre-show, and I'm like, I want to talk about this, because this is one of those things where it's just like, was he doing this just so he could get the money, or just to see if he could do it?
I am like, as someone who plays a bit of poker, not much, and thinks about tactics a lot. This to me is a test of how much he can do it and how long it would take for a reaction. Because if he consistently won on River, that to me sounds like he wasn't thinking ahead. Because I would lose a couple of games every so often.
I mean,
I would even lose big. Because why not? It doesn't matter when you have a tool like that. What matters is that you do not show yourself to be a cheat, which is hard, but things like intentionally losing can help.
Well, yeah, but this is just fascinating how they did it. Now, they're calling this... They're saying that he modified this camera by swapping out with what's referred to as a tiny camera. These are cameras that are like microscopic in size.
So a pinhole camera.
Yeah, a pinhole camera. That's what they're saying that he swapped this out with. But in order to do this, you have to understand like the reverse engineering that went into just putting the camera in the phone.
Yes. Then the amount of engineering it took to actually like get the right cards, the right reflection of the shoe and everything. To me, that's something that they knew what they were doing. They knew they were gonna be losing that hand, that game. They're gonna be losing. Like they wanted to see the reaction. That's my guess. Because I don't really see, because if it was that much technology and that much smart into it, but then failed on a basic part, yeah, it's suspicious to me.
Either way, this is just this is just fascinating to read, and as usual, I have the link for this in the description, and you should also read it, listener, because I was a bit flabbergasted to read this, and it's like, wow.
Huh.
I mean, of course, that's not the wildest thing that we've seen or done in our lives, I imagine. Like, Bigpod, I alluded to this at the start of the show, right? Like, you went through this wild adventure of a setup.
Yeah.
So, Bigpod, you're talking to me right now through an Android phone beaming wirelessly to your computer, which is picking it up in a virtual machine, which is running on a host operating system that you're controlling through another virtual machine, or something like that. How many virtual machines are involved in the making of this episode right now?
4.
4 virtual machines. Well, that sounds like more virtual machines than I'm currently running right now.
One of them is a desktop. One of them is a Windows I'm currently on, because I'm having issues with audio on Linux. Last episode can attest to that. Then I have 2 virtual machines which are part of a storage cluster I'm storing the episode recording on.
Okay. So, what is the host operating system, and how are you getting this all configured?
So, first of all, to be understanding, that I'm using two systems, two servers. One of them is a 4-core, 16 GB of RAM, really old desktop. The other one is my personal desktop, 12-core, 24-thread, 64 gigs of RAM. What I've been using up until now as a desktop. But instead of running on it Linux, desktop, or Windows, I'm running on it something called Proxmox, which is essentially an OS.
I think we mentioned this last week, didn't we, Proxmox?
Probably. It's an OS that its main purpose is virtualizing, or doing virtualization. Like, it's meant for servers and like large deployments. What I'm using it for is I host multiple VMs on it, and I control it through a web interface they created, with which I can start, stop VMs. Nothing that shocking. Standard stuff. Basically, that's the same operation Virt Manager does, or Cockpit would do. But what VMs are using is a big thing. So, as I said, I'm using 2 VMs, one on each node or server, that have installed Fedora 41 with packages for Ceph. Ceph is a storage platform with distributed storage. I mentioned it last week in more detail. Each server has, or the small server has 4 storage devices that are hard drives. or 3, but I've cut them up in such a way that I get 4 storage devices of 900 gigabytes. So I have a bit more space than how much I use for redundancy and all that. Then I also have an SSD, and it's cut up in 2 128 chunks. The second machine, which is what my old desktop is, has another virtual machine for Ceph, which also has 2 SSDs of 128 gigabytes in the VM. And the SSD part is where I'm currently saving the episode automatically. So it's on a high-speed storage on 2 servers over there somewhere. Now, I also have on the what used to be my desktop 2 other virtual machines. One of them is a standard Linux desktop, specifically it's Bluefin. Nothing that shocking. Same thing that's running on my laptop. But the other virtual machine is essentially Windows 11 Pro, which I'm using to record, which I'm using to do everything. Its main task could be editing and gaming. But what I'm doing now is I have my laptop. Currently I'm using Steam Link because I'm doing this quickly. I'll probably look into something like something more better than Steam Link that has better integration, yada yada yada. I think Sunshine is something like that. No idea. I still have to look into this stuff.
Yeah, I know that Moonlight is like a remote video game server, but I don't know if it'll do like desktop sessions for you.
Steam Link is also meant for games.
Yeah.
I just minimize Steam and use it for whatever I need to. Now, and I connected it with Steam Link. I connected it to that Windows host or Windows VM, and I can do, and it feels just like I'm in front of that computer with a screen, with a keyboard and a mouse. It's kinda amazing. Except I carry around with me a 4-core laptop with 16 gigs of RAM and 256 gig SSD. But in reality, what I connect to is a many-core monster with a GPU, 32 gigs of RAM, and a terabyte of storage. I can do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking that how I do like recording, how I do editing in it. It is a VM. There is this thing called PCIe pass-through. I basically take my PCIe card, which in this case is my GPU. I tell Proxmox to that card it should not initialize. It will, before it even starts the drivers, all that, it will say, I don't want to work with you. Essentially. And then it passes it over to the VFIO driver. Something. Virtual something input output, I guess. At which point I can insert that card directly into any VM I want. In this case, my Windows VM. Or if I shut down that Windows VM, I can insert it into my Linux VM. All that automatically. And to top it all off, I can also pass any USB ports, any USB devices I want. So what I did was I passed my Bluetooth adapter, which is part of the desktop because, well, I needed a Bluetooth adapter since I was using Bluetooth headphones. I passed the Bluetooth adapter, which is USB, over USB bus, directly to the VM. So now I can connect to that VM's Bluetooth and not have anything between between my hearing of Josh and the computer that does the hearing of Josh. That's specifically useful for the time when I'm doing recording. Otherwise, I wouldn't use that, but for recording.
That sounds quite fascinating.
Yes.
And now I'm starting to wonder, because you mentioned that you did this, and I think I mentioned I wanted to toy around with this idea.
Also, I just noticed, Josh, your cat ran away.
I noticed that too. Don't you worry. She did that like 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
But anyways, so I have my computer in my server closet.
Yeah.
That's about 30 feet behind me.
Yep.
And I'm currently running these very long cables from the server cabinet out to my computer here. Which basically means that if I was to replicate this setup, all I need to do is just pass through a video card and a single USB port. I might just do the entire adapter, but realistically, it only needs to be one port.
And all it is that one cable for that one port and a separate computer that sits on your desk, like a mini PC you're probably reaching for. That building you always like to show off.
This little mini PC right here.
Yeah,
So I was looking at that, but another thing that I was thinking about, one of these days, if I ever get like a large enough home where I can justify having multiple computer setups, I am dreaming the Active Directory thing, or right now Bigpod, where I can just log into that computer and have all the same data no matter where I log in at.
Yes. Yeah, that's also an option. Personally, I'm more this way, so no matter which computer I sit in front, I just connect to the same virtual machine.
I think I want to try this first before I try to go down and figure out like free IPA.
Yes. I used both in the past. And I most definitely like this approach better.
It sounds cleaner.
A lot cleaner, because at the end of the day, when you're in front of a different computer and you log in through like user profile sharing, that's what it's called, or user profile roaming, that's what it's called. We mentioned this during the episode with Martin Rimpress 2 episodes ago. That was all part of the Windows 365 link discussion, where I also got the idea to actually do this.
Oh.
Like, I wanted to do this for a while, but like that topic reignited my passion for it. So, yeah, but in my opinion, being used both in past, the way of doing it with having a bunch of clean PCs that connect into a single or couple of VMs is definitely much cleaner, in my opinion, because you then actually have your PC in front of you no matter where you go.
Yeah. I probably won't do this for like the laptop, which is often not used in the home.
Well,
performance could be an issue at that point.
Not necessarily. I use it while I'm going around with my laptop.
Well, you see, there's a difference between your home internet connection and mine.
That's also true. Yes. Get yourself fiber.
It's in the backyard, like I said. I just told them to connect me last. It's my own damn fault that I don't have the fibers. But anyways, I think I'm gonna be going down like this adventure, just to toy around with it. If anything, I initiated the desktop system backup right now, so we're definitely gonna be trying some things.
Well, yeah. This started for me as an experiment. Even Josh can say that I told him that I'm doing something insane. But at this point, I think I'm gonna keep it the way it is. Not going back to the old way.
Yeah,
at least for a couple of months.
the big benefit of this is that now you have no excuse to run an immutable distro anymore, Bigpod.
Actually, this is an actual, not an excuse, but actual logical point for running a immutable distro.
Oh, okay. Well, let me explain my reasoning first. Because now you get to image the entire virtual machine.
Yes. But you know that immutable distro doesn't just mean imaging. It means how it updates. It means all that.
But if it breaks, you just roll back the VM image.
Great, but I don't want it to break because I don't want to deal with it. And it's not just the VM image. What about the host OS on my laptop?
Well, you see, that now you're just making sense. But in the meantime, the first thing I'm gonna do is if I get like this, if I get like the hardware pass through working anyway, because I'm not gonna install Proxmox for this. We're gonna be doing this through KVM config files. Because
it should be just as easy.
It should be theoretically, as long as I read the documentation right, because it's been a while since I read KVM documentation.
On the part of how to set up that isn't like part of the Proxmox. So the kernel stuff is the same. You can use Proxmox data, Proxmox documentation. Only things you would need to do differently would be set up for. We're probably going to be using virt manager. So for libvirt things, for that you would need to actually read the documentation how to write in a file or set in a virt manager.
Yeah, it's a XML file that I would have to write this in. But that doesn't mean that it can't be done.
It can be done. I know people who do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to be messing around with that. But I've also messed around with the idea.
I have a better proposition for you. I don't think you need to even do that.
What's that?
Doesn't your GPU, which is Intel, support SR-IOV?
Now that I think about it, I think you're right.
SR-IOV, single root input output v something, is basically a way how to cut up your GPU into multiple pieces. NVIDIA and AMD consumer GPUs don't support it. It's a feature that is generally only supported on their enterprise cards, so that would be the old Quadro and Teslas. For the NVIDIA case, or for AMD case, it would be like FirePros. But I believe Intel enables SR-IOV by default on all their cards.
Yeah. Scalable I/O virtualization is what it stands for.
No, it doesn't.
No?
It should stand for single root input-output virtualization or I/O virtualization.
Let's see. I'm Googling for this right now. SR-IOV. Okay.
Single root input-output virtualization, yes. SR-IOV.
Let's see. That is Ethernet tool documentation.
It first started for Ethernet, but yes, it also works for GPUs and many other things. Anything that is on PCIe Express bus, really.
Yeah, I know the Intel Xe driver does support, but I just don't know if the Arc GPU supports itself.
I believe so. Unless they still support the GVGP or GVGD or GVGV, something like that. Intel Arc GVG, whatever it's called. IOV.
A770.
There might need to be some changes apparently. Okay. Here we go. No. Arc A series doesn't support SR-IOV.
Darn.
But their CPU does, which is kind of annoying, but my guess is they will be. There might be an emulator for it in BattleMage, because like if their CPUs support it, why wouldn't their GPUs? But it makes sense that their ARC GPUs don't support it because they came out after they switched from GVTG to SRIOV. Or maybe they want to milk the money from their data center cards, so they're flexible.
That's also entirely possible, but I would be excited if they put this into consumer chips.
Yes, it would be awesome because then you could basically split your card in two pieces and have half the compute on host and half the compute on your VM, or between two VMs, or 4 VMs, or whatever you want. But there is one thing that I would have to kinda inform you. That's for all. So if you have a GPU like I have or you have, you need to still have a monitor plugged into it.
Well, of course. Lighted. They do make HDMI dummy plugs and DisplayPort dummy
plugs. That's what I was going for. And the reason for that is because many of especially this software, first of all, to get any kind of resolution besides of default like 480p or
800 by 600 is like the standard now, I believe.
No, or maybe that, yes, maybe that. But or any kind of good refresh rate, you would need to have an initialized display. Second of all, what is even more important is many of this software that does like video game capture, like remote video gaming or something like that, basically take the GPU frame buffer and send this out to the user. GPU frame buffer is activated when a display is initialized. So you need either a monitor or a dummy plug to be connected so it actually initializes the display.
Well, I think I'm going to mess around with that. I do need to do a couple redeployments on the servers first to begin with. We're dropping Fedora off of our main server.
Really?
Yeah. Mostly because I'm just coming around to the idea of like maybe I want to mess around with like the common man home lab setup. So I'm looking at like messing around with TrueNAS because I've never used TrueNAS or FreeNAS.
Yeah, but
I don't know anything about ZFS.
NASs. That's mainly for NAS, not for.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, your main server is a NAS, of course.
Yeah, my main server is NAS plus.
Yes.
But
well, if we got sponsored for a proper NASs, we would highly appreciate that.
Well, you see, if one of these NAS companies wants to reach out and give us a sponsor, and they have an operating system that I can install on my server,
or I can install anything I want because I want Ceph.
Yeah, or that. Sure, I'd give it a shot. But hey, you know what? In the comments on YouTube, or the Spotify comments, or this email address that's showing up on the show right now, contact@tuxbase.com, tell me what I should install on my server. Because I'm curious what the community wants me to run. Of course, I know that somebody is going to be out there and saying Gentoo, and he's going to be like the only one. I know. I've ran Gentoo on the servers before.
He wants something like TrueNAS Scale or something like.
Well, you see, somebody's going to come out and say Gentoo using the hardened no 64-bit or no 32-bit profile using ZFS on root. That's what they're going to say. And
I have an idea.
I'm going to be game for the challenge because I need to learn ZFS anyway. What better way to learn ZFS than manually setting it up?
Well, yeah, but TrueNAS Scale doesn't matter for you, and it's Debian.
That's true. And honestly, the main reason why I'm looking at TrueNAS scale is because, it hits that ZFS button, and they still use KVM for the virtualization stack, which is the virtualization stack that I'm already familiar with.
And I'm already familiar with and using.
Yeah, that said, I don't know how well the TrueNAS UI handles the virtualization when you pair it with Virt Manager running over SSH.
Probably doesn't, because it's probably not using libvirt.
I'll find out. But in the meantime, I know that if I want TrueNAS to identify my drives, I need to back up the data off the server and run a clean wipe on all my disks.
Yes,
because
essentially it needs to be just not have a partition or a GPT.
Yeah, it just needs to be a blank drive. It can't have any partitions on it or anything.
Yes.
And the main reason for this is because the TrueNAS interface does not know what Btrfs is, even though the kernel does. So it'll tell you that there's a drive there, but it won't show the drive when you go to generate the ZFS file systems on the drive. It just won't be there.
Well, I believe it does actually ask you if you want to clean the drives.
Well, it's supposed to.
Yes.
But it doesn't show the drives to you at all.
Wait, really?
It's a bug.
Huh. Interesting.
It's a bug. Software. I opened this bug like 2 years ago on like their GitHub page when they first came out with Scale, and they've never fixed it. It's like, why are you using Btrfs anyway? And I'm like, because that's what the disk had.
Software. Welcome to Linux. Welcome to software.
Yeah, welcome to open source, where anybody can do anything for any reason, because that is our GNU given right.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want to shout at us directly, well, we have these wonderful links right here. These are our Fediverse IDs. So you can put these links into your threads, which I just discovered apparently I have a Threads account. I don't know where I got it from. Yeah, I just randomly have a Threads account. So
well, even we have a Threads account. No tax allowed.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you can also follow us on our most personal pages.
Yes.
Using these links. Just put that into your threads. Make sure that you have Federation enabled, because if you don't have it enabled, you don't those links don't work.
Yeah.
But you put that in there, you can follow us, because that comes from where we post things on Mastodon, which I know Bigpod, you haven't posted anything in a while.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that right at the end of this episode, you're going to be like, hey, I'm posting something on my Mastodon for the first time in a while, aren't you? That way it shows up in everybody's feeds?
Probably not. I don't really
Probably
do
not.
that.
Maybe one of these days.
I don't really post things on social media outside of YouTube.
I know. You're just a stalker.
I'm kind of boring kind of guy. I'm boring. Last few things I posted
the little kitten left and decided to come back.
Last few things I posted on Twitter, for example, were, hey, the episode of No Tax Allowed is out. And even that I forgot to do for the last couple of episodes.
To be fair, I've been slacking on that too. And of course,
I probably should automate that.
Probably should. Which, I have decided to step up our Discord game a little bit today. Right as we were getting ready to record the show, I have introduced the YouTube bot to Discord, so now everybody can be annoyingly pinged when we hit publish on our one episode per week. And
at 9 a.m. UTC.
Yep, 9 a.m. UTC. And if you're in our Discord server, chatting with our community, we will let you know when the episode releases. That way, you can get that reminder to give us a watch.
Yeah.
And of course, if you would like to support our wonderful wild adventures with all the things that we wonderfully do, that we're probably going to be doing anyway, because it's our personal free time, but you also want to support the show, because you recognize that this show, the website that you pull your RSS feed from, it's all self-hosted, as in it comes out of our pockets. It's fairly cheap right now, but we foresee that getting more expensive in the future. And of course, the number one cost for a self-hosted podcast like ours is not necessarily in like you viewing the page, but you actually downloading the file from the RSS feed to watch the content. And because that requires transfer and storage. Thankfully, we don't need GPU acceleration to do any of that.
Yes. That's really expensive.
Yeah, but one of these days I'm going to get that random email from Cloudflare saying that, hey, we're noticing a lot of transfers through our S3 bucket that you're distributing your MP3
R2
files on.
bucket.
R2 bucket. It's the same thing. It's just one of them's the Amazon name. I'm sorry, I used the wrong thing. But anyways, drop us a couple dollars there. If you do, we're going to give you access to what's called a premium podcast feed. Now, there's a couple notes about this feed. For one thing, the episode that you just listened to now comes at a higher bit rate. And if we ever pick up advertisers, it's going to be ad free.
Yeah.
But right next to that feed, in a recording that's almost twice as long as the actual show, sometimes even longer than that, we are now publishing a pre-show as well. And that's basically from when I personally sit down at my computer and patiently wait for Bigpod to tell me that he wants to record an episode.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes a while. And we get in discussions sometimes, and sometimes those discussions are more interesting for me than the actual show itself. And it gets a little wild sometimes, like where I talk about like why I took all the content off of my YouTube channel.
And sometimes you get the boring one, like sometimes.
Like sometimes where you just hear us just doing this.
We both sit and just type things in silence, or maybe we talk about it a bit, but nothing interesting happens. You get them how you get them.
Yep. But hey, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, I think that's going to be it for the show. So I will see you next week.
Goodbye.